My name's Erin Johnson-Croft, and I am the Senior Director of Employer and Industry Engagement for Central New Mexico Community College. So we're super excited to be part of this event today. We have some information materials on your tables, and I'm going to just do a quick introduction of our representatives from the college, and then I'm going to hand it off. And then we have some paper and pens on the tables, so if you have some questions that you don't get a chance to ask later on, then you're more than welcome to write those down, and we'll collect those at the end of the day. So I'd like to introduce our current president of CNM, President Tracy Hartzler. And then we have Phil Lister is our dean of our School of Math, Science, and Engineering at the college. We have TJ Cook, who is the, now I can't remember, I'm sorry, Executive Director of ABQID. I thought there was a different name, so I'm sorry. Okay. And then Samantha Sengel is our Vice President of Workforce and Community Success. So they're here in a nice panel format to represent some different areas of the college. And they're going to talk a little bit about how CNM is working to meet the workforce needs of the bioscience and biomedical industries. I'm going to hand it over to President Hartzler.
Thanks. Well, good afternoon and certainly welcome to CNM. I'm glad you were able to be here today. It sounds like you had a great day and it was very productive. And I'm not sure if it's better to be right after lunch or right before happy hour, but here we are. Because I'm sure that's where, again, you'll continue to have incredibly insightful and energetic discussions. So again, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I think you've heard, it seems like today you've heard quite a bit about what CNM does, whether some of you partner with us currently or you're participating in our efforts to grow small businesses or grow businesses, and certainly some of our programming and how you develop our programming. But I think what I hope what you'll hear now in the next couple of minutes, and I hope you'll ask us more questions, because really, I'm not sure there's anything more exciting than having 4 people talk at you. We really would like to have this be an engaging conversation. But really ask us and think about how we can also be more responsive and help us grow and develop not only our programming, but really our students and your employees, because certainly we have students who then join your businesses, but really we try to grow and also help upskill your employees as well as you grow and develop your own businesses. So I think what you've heard and what you'll hear from us is that we are focused on workforce. I think what you see here is a commitment to doing that, not only because we're at the Workforce Training Center, but because we have an entire division of staff who are focused on working with employers, hearing what's needed, developing responsive programming, developing programs that allow for employees and students to actually learn and become employees for you, whether they're interns or also become employees after their program completion. There's no question that during the pandemic, we really had to retool, probably like so many of you, had to retool and refocus on what we do well and where our community needs us the most. And I don't think there's any question that workforce is one of our highest priorities, and we won't grow as a region or as a state without really revamping and growing, expanding what we do. So I trust that you're going to help us continue that focus here. And I think the other component, not only do we focus on workforce and community success, we really focus on partnerships. I'm fortunate. I work for 7 people that they're an elected governing board, and they value partnerships. They expect me to work with our community members. And I find it's one of the most exciting things I do when I'm working with business, when I'm working with our local public schools, our local charter schools as well, and our community-based organizations to, again, meet our students where they are, meet our employers where they are, and help them achieve their dreams. So again, it's expected that I do that, and I'm glad it's within my wheelhouse, and that I also find enjoyment doing it. But again, they realize that CNM has many strengths, but we are not the only solution, and that we are one part of a much bigger conversation for us to serve our region and our state and our nation, frankly. So I really appreciate that we're here today to recognize where we can be helpful, to highlight some of the programs and the ways that we grow business, and also I think help identify ways that we can build on our partnerships and probably reach some folks who maybe aren't in this room or are on remotely. So I know that Erin introduced each of us. What I'd like to do is ask a few of my colleagues here some questions to spark discussion, then hopefully entertain questions from you and see where we can go from there. But first, Phil Lister is our Dean of the School of Math, Science, and Engineering. And I've been so excited to work with Phil over the years in my many roles, and to see how that school has evolved, not only as a strong transfer partner to many of our four-year colleges and universities throughout the state, but also to look at a number of our programs, and again, be responsive to what our employers' needs. So I'd say, Phil, would you talk about Phil, not a planted question at all. Would you talk about some of our programs that are, I'd say, our traditional program, but also some of the more exciting work that you're doing in building that combination of both training, non-credit work, but also our degree seeking, to help our degree seeking students as well?
Sure. So I took over the position of dean about 3 years ago, right at the start of the pandemic. And at that time, the School of Math, Science, and Engineering was primarily focused on transfer. And we've seen a unique opportunity as the STEM workforce has shifted from, requiring a master's, a PhD degree, to now in the areas like engineering, computer science, physics, looking at the community colleges as being a leader in the workforce development and the associate degree, and to meet those technical workforce needs. And so I stepped in with a very unique and exciting challenge of starting to build a platform of career technical education within a transfer school like the School of Math, Science, and Engineering. We started out primarily focusing on engineering, and we've been seeing a lot of success. We've been working with partners like Sandia, Lanel, Intel, Lockheed Martin, PNM. And what we have developed are partnerships where students, after their first year, are actually getting internships with these companies. And every one of the students that has gone in an internship has then been invited to do a full year-round internship, which they said will lead to an employment opportunity at the end of their associate, and in some cases, bachelor's degree. And this is kind of the pathway, or the support pathway we want to develop to not only support our students and their career goals, but also the workforce needs of our partners. The Biotech program that we have at CNM was launched a little bit over a decade ago, and it was at the South Valley campus. In 2019, because it was kind of really beginning to wane down in the South Valley, it was moved to our state-of-the-art lab up at the Montoya campus in the Northeast Heights. And even during the pandemic, we had very robust cohorts of a dozen students, which was much better than we had before. I'm going to introduce Jessie Smith in the back, if she'll wave. Jessie Smith is our biotech director, and she has recruited we currently have a cohort of 18 students that are currently going through the program. And our goal is to continue to build it and to grow this program to meet the growing workforce needs of biotechnology. The biotech program was built and the foundation by the first director, Leah Freeman, to meet two goals. One is it is a transfer platform. It has the foundations of cellular, molecular, genetics, mathematics, the communications, STEM chemistry, as well as the gen ed core, to prepare students to move into bachelor degree programs at four-year institutions. The other side of it is kind of I don't know if capstone is the right term, but it is an intense cohorted 3-semester biotechnology laboratory series. It starts in the fall and ends in the summer. And each of the, when I say intensive, it's about 6 to 8 hours per week in the laboratory. We put some of the flyers on the table to give you a kind of a feel for what the program is. But a lot of the skills that the students are developing during these 3-semester biotech includes things like cell culture. There is some histology, maybe not at the level as what we were hoping for, and that's what we're great to get this feedback from. They do a lot with nucleic acid isolation, with quantification, PCR, RT-PCR, real-time PCR. They do protein isolation, as well as analysis with Bradford assays, ELISAs. They learn SDS page and Western blot analysis. They do cloning, subcloning, restriction enzyme analysis. And so they come out of this with a very comprehensive skill set which, in the past was primarily to set them up to be very competitive when they went to the bachelor program, which so that they could compete for undergraduate research fellowships. And then when they go on to become graduate students, they have a skill set that makes them very competitive. What we're looking at now, hopefully, is that this program as it is now, and even as we evolve it with your feedback and your collaboration, can set them up to be very successful as interns to help with your workforce needs, immediate workforce needs, as well as potentially moving into employee workforce positions within your companies. And so this is what our vision is as we start looking at meeting the workforce needs, which is really something that a community college's vision and our role is in the community. And I think what makes a community college like CNM so unique is that we have the ability to adapt and to listen to what you tell us and to develop the programs to provide you with the workforce employees that you're looking for. And I think that's what's the most exciting about for me, is to be able to work with our workforce partners like you and to try to come up with the curriculum, evolve the curriculum, and make it the best program that we can to help our students as well as your needs.
I think some of our partners are here in the audience, but what makes for a good partnership in this program, but also as we develop other programs? You mentioned that this school is also focusing on the CTE element.
Right.
So the individuals who don't go on to transfer right away. What makes for a good partner? What would you want to tell this audience? Because now you have the opportunity to do so.
So I think for me, what's been the most valuable partners are those that come to us and are willing to engage and collaborate and communicate and strategize together on what do we have available, what can we do to either develop curriculum or to revise curriculum, and also to incorporate the hands-on skills, whether it be on the credit side or what we would like to see. We have our ingenuity, the non-credit upskill side, is to start developing programs where you have a melding of that, of the credit and the non-credit, to really provide not only the academic foundations, but really the hands-on skills that will make these students very successful technicians working in whatever company it is that they're going to. And just to give you an example, we were approached by one of the managers at Sandia National Labs, who Sandia, and I imagine Lanel as well, have a dire need to fill explosive technician positions. It's one of the places that they were just really suffering. They would bring people in, they would get snatched up to go on to engineers and stuff. And so they came to us. And so we sat down and we looked at the curriculum and we asked, what would the ideal technician look like to you? What skills would they have? And through that, we developed a program that had the engineering components, it had the math components and the chemistry components, but it also brought in the welding and the machining that would give them the hands-on skills so they would be able to do the job, to build whatever structures they were going to blow up. I mean, who doesn't want to blow things up? But, and again, that's where we're learning too, is that from the ingenuity side, where they have the Internet of Things, I brought the manager to Ingenuity to meet with the individual that runs the Internet of Things bootcamp, and everything that he was telling them, they learned as far as, designing, as far as developing, as far as developing sensors, everything that they learn in that is what he would want his technicians to know, except for Bluetooth capability. That was not allowed at Sandia. So we had to basically leave that out of it. So, we're working with that to try to figure out how to meld these together. And so I think that's what excites me the most about this, is that we have the ability to invite you to be a partner at the table to say, in the biotechnology workforce, what would make the ideal technician, and what skills, what other courses maybe that aren't in the program would really be valuable for those students, and so that we can begin to evolve our program and keep up with what you all need. And just as I was talking during the break, is brought about histology. We have some, but the need for histology in so many different companies, so many different laboratories would be an important skill set that hopefully we would be able to incorporate into our biotech program.
Thank you so much. So Bill works with, as you can tell, works very closely with our business partners. particularly when it comes to what are those needs, what are the competencies and skills that that our students need to learn to be successful in the marketplace. But sometimes we need translators. I mean, I don't really know what histology, I don't know what that is. I mean, I was a liberal arts, I mean, I've learned a lot. I have big pieces of paper that tell me I've learned a lot, but I don't know some of what Bill was talking about. So sometimes we need translators. I think Samantha is one of those translators. So Samantha, if you could talk a little, and Phil, you do a great job, by the way, but I'm just noting sometimes some of us need more, we need more help. And so Samantha is one of those, in her division, I think really is one of those translators to our business partners and our students. And so if you would talk a little bit about how you work with our business, our local employers, and help them determine and articulate some of the needs, because I'm not sure everyone knows exactly what list of skills they want their employees to have, other than we want better communication skills, we want soft skills, very airy. And so I think Samantha is one of those translators. So talk.
Thank you. And thank you all for the conversation today. It's exciting to talk about talent. And you all as business owners, I know talent, when we think about economic opportunity, economic development in our community, any one of your businesses, your opportunity to grow is really dependent on your ability to hire the talent you need at every level. And I think that really goes to what President Hartzler is talking about when we think about that translation. At CNM, we have many ways that you can connect with us to serve your needs for how you can develop and attract the talent that you need to be able to thrive. Our division works across the college to ensure that you have access to every opportunity to connect in that way. Whether you're looking to hire an intern or an apprentice, and by the way, you don't have to know what that internship looks like or what kind of apprenticeship that would be. We will work with you to design and develop that to benefit you and to benefit the student as they progress in their program. If you're looking to hire our graduates, we will tell you, you have the opportunity to do that through Hire a Suncat, as if Suncat means anything to you. It means a lot to us. It's our mascot. But it is a one-stop shop opportunity for you as an employer to be able to say, I'm looking across the entire portfolio of employment of what I need, and I need to connect with someone that's willing and interested to hear, I need somebody that can perform these duties, and we can understand what are the skills that allow someone to do those duties. And then we do the translation to the learning outcomes that which program has that. And so making that connection with you, making that really simple for you is our job, so that our goal is to make sure New Mexicans get great jobs in New Mexico. So all I want is for it to be easy for you all to get access. And that's in both work-based learning environments like internship and apprenticeship, but also in hiring our graduates. And knowing that when you hire one of our graduates, they may be someone that is transferring to the University of New Mexico or any other university, but we can connect that internship at the point that they're worked with us, so that it translates for them as they move along towards that bachelor's degree. And you have someone for a very long time growing within your company and connecting to the work that you have. We also have the opportunity to connect you to classroom visits. Phil talked about all of the words he used, by the way, that I almost turned to TJ and said, did you understand any of that? But I decided I wouldn't call TJ out because I didn't know all of them for sure. But to really think about classroom visits, because what we know is that students don't even imagine what the career looks like. And when someone from your organization comes to the classroom and describes what it looks like to be part of a bioscience company or part of a lab environment and how exciting that can be, that really makes a difference in their ability to understand and imagine the possibilities. But we also have the opportunity for you to participate in curriculum, as Phil described. We have advisory committees that we connect with on an annual basis to get feedback and understanding as whether or not the workforce or the graduates have the skills and competencies that you're looking for. It's also a kind of an annual opportunity for us to do that translation of skills and competencies and learning outcomes, so that we ensure that we're completely relevant for what you need. And last but not least, we've alluded to it and talked to it a bit, but that training and upskilling that you may need to think about. We have a great partnership with often with large employers that have, hundreds of employees with the same job description. And they identify that there's a skill that they need to think about upskilling their workforce in. Great example is when in healthcare, when we all changed our the coding several years ago, and we had to reskill all of the insurance coders to a whole new set. But it's important for you all to know that as an industry, it's likely that as employers within an industry, you likely have some shared experience in that space. And it could be that you have the understanding and the knowledge that there's something coming, that we need to think about upskilling in a very specific skill or competency. And we can work with you as an industry or as an employer to say, what's that bite-sized training that needs to happen, and deliver that to support you and to make sure that you don't have to slow down or hire an in-house trainer. That seems like an extensive hire. But the cool thing about all of those things is that you don't have to navigate 6 different entry points to think about and figure out how to connect to CNM. On your tables, you all have this flyer that says employer support. And I know that for me, when I'm ever in a setting like this, these pieces of paper disappear within a week and I can't find it and I can't figure it out. At the top of the CNM website, when you go to cnm.edu, there is a link, very clearly states workforce and community. So at any point when you want to connect through that one link, when you come to that page, you say who you are, and we will connect you to all of those resources. Erin's team will make sure that if you need to connect on an internship only, that's all you want to talk about, that's fine. We can connect into that space. If you want to connect across all 6 of those layers, we will make sure that you have the access and opportunity to do so. We'll make sure Phil has to answer your phone call. I'm just teasing you, Phil. He's very responsive. Incredibly responsive, actually. So thank you, Phil. But then you can help us imagine the possibilities with a CNM Ingenuity about the training that you may need. Lastly, I want to make sure that you know that we're going to work with you to support you in how you may be able to access some of the other potential funding streams and supports that there might be for upskilling and or bringing on interns. We oftentimes have access to funding to support work study students, and we use work study funding to support them in being in a field of study internship. It's a fantastic way to maximize opportunity. We also know and understand the Job Training Albuquerque program that is administered through CNM Ingenuity, and it gives, we will make sure that if that opportunity is available to you, that we connect you and ensure that you have access to a program that will pay for training for your employees. And then we also connect very closely with JTIP. And JTIP is not just for new businesses in New Mexico. We can also work with your incumbent workforce and think about skilling up. And we will access funding related to WIOA and the Workforce Connection System. There are ways for us to support you in making those connections to the funding opportunities. We take that as our responsibility to support you in making those connections, to make those possibilities easier for both hiring interns, apprentices, and even our graduates as you move through the process and upskilling your current workforce.
I'm excited. I think what Samantha highlighted also, and Phil, we work with there's no question we work with large employers, but we all know that your businesses and the employees and the skills that your employees need are often very similar to what the Intels, the advanced manufacturing and others need. So, I want to be very clear. We do our best to work with, to build programs that are responsive and that we can tweak to meet a number of individual employer needs. So we know that not everybody has tens of thousands of employees, but we certainly know that those skill sets are common. And we certainly adapt our programming to fit the needs of many. And I think what's also important, and what Samantha highlighted, was really the amount of funding that's available. We are committed to use institutional funds to make sure that the cost of training or having an intern or work study student isn't what's the cost borne by you is the expertise and the mentoring and the supervision that you're providing that individual. We want to make sure that individual has a salary and gets paid a stipend. And so we're really committed to being able to find resources to help underwrite that training cost as much as possible for you, and to be able to create that expectation and experience for a student that they also know they're going to get paid for important work that's relevant in their workforce, that relevant to their program, and move on. So I think what you've heard are a couple of different ways that we are solution oriented and helping to meet some of your workforce needs, not only on the programming side, which is critically important, but certainly in the funding and the pairing up of your needs and being able to scale for what you might need as well. Another exciting element of the CNM enterprise is CNM Ingenuity. You've heard us describe that a few times. It's our Research Park Act entity. So it's not uncommon. Most of the universities here in New Mexico have an entity that they charge with developing business, owning IP, and really and serving probably many of your businesses in this area. So I'm excited that TJ Cook, who is the leader of ABQID, but also leads the Ingenuity Venture Fund, how we invest in businesses as well. So TJ, if you would talk a little bit about what we currently do to help support businesses, including small businesses, but also discuss, I would say, one of our primary legislative initiatives coming up that we are really, that we are excited to have legislators sponsor a bill to help fund some of our business support efforts.
Thanks, President Hartzler. And can you all hear me all right? Should I go real close? Let's do that. Like President Hartzler said, CNM Ingenuity is a research park entity. Out of the universities, the research park entities tend to gravitate toward IP formation, licensing, and things like that. Our research park entity is a little bit different. There is some IP that does come out of things like deep dive coding and some of the students we work with, and our capstone-based approach, which actually does birth products into the world. But we get to be practice ingenuity in regards to how we train, equip, workforce, entrepreneurial skills, and the like. I get to wear the hat of actually making investments into companies. So Ingenuity is the general partner of, essentially, I won't go into details, but $5 million under management as a micro VC fund. And we've made investment in life sciences companies. We've made investment in software companies. We've made investment in retail companies. So I think how that fits in the whole what does CNM offer picture is that we know what it's like. We are living side by side with a lot of very early companies. And that does a couple of things. It helps us get a finger on the pulse for what's coming down the pike, market trends, what are the companies of the future, and thus the workforce needs of the future. It also helps us work at speed. It's a constant spur in what could be a bureaucracy that might tend to gravitate towards moving slowly. It keeps us moving quickly. Because if we don't work quickly for our startups, they're not going to get what they need, and that's not going to be good. So it helps infect or instill a sense of speed and responsiveness, which I really enjoy from my colleagues, and how we serve the community. And I would say very broadly and philosophically, when you work with entrepreneurs and when you help teach entrepreneurial skill sets like we do through Activate New Mexico, through the pitch competitions we run, by the way, Ski Lift Pitch, February 22nd through 23rd, Taos, New Mexico. Day of tickets are $75, $25 for students. Talk to me about sponsorship. When you do those things, you are teaching the skills of the future, no matter what the technical need is. I've heard it said that entrepreneurship is a workforce imperative, right? When I came onto the scene in 2017, 30 companies had been sent through an accelerator program, ABQID accelerator. It invested a little bit of capital in exchange for a little bit of ownership in the companies. And what I saw from that was some companies being monetarily successful, but a lot of founders who went on to be absolute assets. Their company didn't work out, but they had a skill set now that made them amazing product managers, amazing project managers, amazing leaders in maybe larger companies, because it is a thing that you get burned out from a startup and need to join something else before you can do your next startup. So I'll just say that I think having this component of a venture fund and also the programming and the community building and the events that we run out of Ingenuity on behalf of the entire college, but really on behalf of the community, fills out this whole spectrum, this horizontal offering and engine that we can help build in New Mexico, and especially in Albuquerque, but in New Mexico when it comes to workforce development and economic development. So I think that's why it's exciting that we have, why do we have a venture fund and why do we do all these things? It's because it's all part of that spectrum. We got to know about the workforce needs of the future. No better way to know about it than to invest in the startups that are building the future, right? So.
We also, in addition to the companies that Ingenuity, that CNM owns, has an ownership interest, we also have strong training partnerships and requirements that, and we know that if we're investing in that company, as that company grows, we want to make sure we're able to train and be responsive to designing the programs and the needs that that employer, that partner and that company needs. So again, I think what you see is full service here, which is exciting. But what I'm most interested in now is if you have any questions, we can certainly, I certainly have more questions, but I'm also interested in the questions you have for the panel and also what you want us to know as we consider and as we grow and develop our own programs.
Good afternoon. First, thank you for speaking to us today. I'm new to New Mexico. I came here 5 years ago, and I'd never encountered a community college like this before, ever, not even close. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. We had junior colleges. I went to one. My dad taught there. Lived in Philly for 30 years. We have Philadelphia Community College. It's remedial learning for, at best, and nobody hires from there. So CNM is an incredible institution from my perspective. It's startling even. I think it's more effective than a lot of state colleges, in my opinion. And I think my instinct is that the way that you're dealing with this topic today is dead on right. And I encourage you to look at Drexel University. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Drexel, but Drexel is the MIT of the working class. They don't call themselves that, but they are an amazing college in Philadelphia, 25,000 students, same number as your school, by the way. For your school, you do 2 years of classwork, and then you do 2 years of internship, paid internship. And you're paid reasonably well, like $2,500 a month. And every entrepreneur in Philadelphia hires from there. I've done it many times. And every business in Philadelphia hires. And what does that mean? They've got to find places for 25,000 students. Well, no, places for 10,000 students every year. They have a whole system on how to do internships. And I've tried to hire interns from CNM twice now, unsuccessfully. And I'm going to continue doing that because I like the program as it's described to me. It's like almost too good to be true. Now, if I could only get some candidates to send to me. So my question is, when you have this internship program, could you tell us a little bit how it would work in an ideal way or how it works today? Or where you plan to go with it? Because I think it's a big deal.
So I might just jump in, and this is something that Jesse may be able to add on to. I guess my vision is, the students start their biotech first lab in the fall, and and that's when they're really getting their confidence within the laboratory. During the spring might be the time when we talk about having the visits where you get to come, present your company, what you're looking for, get to meet the students, and then we could look at developing. We have an internship part of our workforce and community success now that could set up even having an information day where you come and you just present to all the students, and they can even do interviews at that time. But I think it's just a matter of starting these relationships and partnerships and getting the students to know you and your company and what the options are, and then setting up the interviews and setting up the internship probably for starting in the summertime.
And I'll add to that, that we have done a lot of work in the last few months to increase both the capabilities of our systems to support you as a potential intern sponsor, and expand the reach that we have with students and connecting them to internship opportunities, which I think I heard in your comments that it's the challenge of getting the applicants for the internship. But we will dissect the challenges you've had and make sure that we find a solution. Aaron's like, I'm sure I've written it down, but we are also building out an environment, a hub that you as an employer, an intern supervisor will have a one-stop shop opportunity to manage that relationships rather than what I think folks have experienced in the past related to internships at CNM. There's been lots of different versions and variations. We want to create a hub so that you have a very seamless, unique experience that is simple for you to navigate and have that support system in one place.
I strongly recommend that you look at what Drexel does,
We will.
because they've been doing it for 30 years and it works like a machine, and it's very rational, and you're applying to them. You have to make a job description good enough so that they want to come work for you.
Right.
We're not doing them a favor. They're doing us a favor and we're doing them a favor both. And it's very, very rational. It goes in three rounds, the A round, the B round, the C round. And most of the top talent seems to be sucked up in the A round in the first 6 weeks of the applications. And it's a B round people. And if you're a student and you haven't gotten chosen until the C round, it's a problem. You may not get it. And if you don't get employed by somebody, I think you're out. So it's all online, and it's very rational, and it's cool, and it works. So it's worth looking at as
We'll do that.
way to model it. And so anyway, I've hired many, interns from Drexel. I'd do it today if they were here.
Thanks for the advice.
I just want to add one more thing and be able to introduce Nora Mendoza, who's over on the side. She's our program manager for our School of Math Science and Engineering. And just as an example, Lockheed Martin came to us, not the state, but actually the national, and they wanted to hire some of our students to do internships, this virtual internships this spring. Set up an information system. Nora worked with the students to get their resumes ready to go, to get them to apply to the posting, and everything worked out. And we ended up having 5 students that were hired to be interns during the spring term. The same thing went on with Intel at the beginning of the fall term. And that was where one of the students was hired at the end of the fall term. They said, we're hiring you full-time as an intern, and we will hire you as an employee after your bachelor's degree. So yeah, that seems to be a really good way to work it. But yeah, looking into Drexel would probably give us some good foundations.
Thank you. I echo the sentiment about CNM and what you guys are doing. It's very impressive. One question I have is, in terms of setting up the internships and accessing students, what are the limitations on their schedule? That is, they still have coursework and things like that while this is going on. And so what is the flexibility with that if it's during semester, or is the idea that this is sort of a summer thing when you're off cycle from school?
So it is a unique answer for every program and every student, to be honest with you. So we have, the majority of our students are working adults. Our average student population is in their late 20s. They have a family, they often have a job. So that is a challenge. But what we worked with our students is to help them recognize that internship is really their entree into the field that they're working towards. So your job at the job that's getting your family through right now might not be the job. You might want to trade off the time and think differently about your schedule. There is nothing set to say you can only have an internship in the summer, or that you can only do it for 20 hours a week. It really is an employment arrangement most of the time with the student. Now, if we're using one of our funding streams like work study, we do have limitations where when we support augmenting the pay so that there will be some limitations in that, but we will work with you to design it and work with that. And then when you're working with a student or you find a candidate, that's part of that vetting process you'd want to do very early on to determine if they can meet your work requirements. And it could be in the intern listing. We're looking for somebody 20 hours a week, 3 days a week, whatever it may be.
I'm not really that interested in internships. It's great to bring them on, but really I'm interested in hiring FTEs. And the concern I have is if people are bringing on interns, that would basically give them a sales opportunity to that potential employee. So what is the best way, which is a good strategy, but what is the best way for us to, and I just haven't been involved with it, to really sell ourselves to your students and have that interaction? Do you have venues to do that so that we
I
can?
feel
get
like
ourselves in
Erin
front of
fed
them?
you that question. Did she whisper that in your ear? It's a fantastic question because we invite employers to participate with us actively. Classroom visits happen not just at the point of hiring, but we invite you to come and describe your company. So while they're in their program, they've learned about your company and they're thinking about your company all the way through to when they'll be qualified to come and work for you. We also invite employers to participate in industry or sector specific hiring events. So we'll do like a job fair and we call it a job match where they come and hear about your company. You get the opportunity to have access to 100% of those participants that participate. We'll also do some of the heavy lifting for you as well. So with some of our partners, we will do vetting of students as to where they are, and we proactively promote the opportunity to those students that they look like they're a good match for them to come in and have potentially either an early awareness of your company through an interview, or even to be part of something that may be a workshop around, what does it mean to get the chance to work at company X, or be, because there might be specifics that you're looking for in their skill sets. So we invite you, please, to think about using the QR code and tell us how much you want to be engaged. And we will connect you into those opportunities to get that one-on-one and group opportunity to talk about what you all do and that you're the best place to work.
Well, no, you asked a really important question about scheduling and how our students work and schedule. I'll say, and I'm not sure this is the best example in this particular field or some of these fields. One, you should know a lot of our students start and stop out, right? They take a class, they take a few classes, particularly some of our intensive boot camps and our coding and some other work. They will go, they'll get their training, they'll go work, and then they'll come back to us. So that often happens. And you'll see that's one way that actually students regulate their schedules and their work. And that's an interesting way for them to build, see relevance, build their wages, and then they help realize what kind of other programming and certificates and training they want to get. I think the other piece, though, is we are really challenged by our traditional academic scheduling. We are a big ship and we're hard to turn. We turn more than most, but we're still hard to turn. But I would say in other fields or programs, we have worked with employers to schedule sort of the 4 weeks on, 4 weeks in class, 5 weeks in an intern, their work experience, 4 weeks back on. So we work in cohorts in that way. And we found that to be successful, particularly in our skilled trades. We can't do that in all areas, but we certainly look at other programs. And so I would also think, what are there ways to package, if you will, and schedule differently to allow students to gain skills and relevance that they may need, or you as an employer may need. And then what's that that intensive work period? Because then that's another way for you to manage their work, and also for them to manage their coursework. So I think it moves quite a bit. And it'd be interesting to see if that's an option or that's something we can explore for any of you. But I know we do that at other parts of the college as well. But scheduling is a challenge. And so I recognize that because you're certainly working in probably more traditional timeframes than probably at the same time we traditionally hold classes. So we're really trying to change what we do to, again, allow our students and others to gain the most they can in their experience.
The talk about Drexel is very interesting. I know the president, I can make that introduction for you. But I would also say Northeastern University, very similar setup, and they do a great job. One of the things I've started to do with Erin, would like to expand that, is introductions to our company so that she can get in and talk about your various programs. And we're more than happy to continue to try to make those introductions for you. So keep that in mind too. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Stacy. I've met most of all of you, I think. I just wanted to say thank you. I had a couple notes. My business students at UNM Entrepreneurial Studies what they're missing, they get the business side of it, but they don't get the tech side. So I send them all to you guys to your coding boot camp, which they love. So I want to make sure you know that. That's an excellent program. The other one is I recently had a class with Bosque entrepreneurial students. And since we were down at the rainforest, we walked across the hallway or parking lot to the CNM workforce or CNM Fuse Makerspace. Got a wonderful tour there, got to see the 3D printers. So another resource for you guys is that Fuse Makerspace is amazing. Another one was some of my students needed to do logos and digital design. So I sent them to the CNM Digital Media Lab, which is out of Rio Rancho, another excellent program people could take advantage of here. And then you also have the CNM Entrepreneur Club with Linda Schul. I was the faculty advisor for the UNM Student Entrepreneur Club. Last we were talking about doing some joint events and probably tying that to Siembra, the leadership entrepreneurial charter school downtown. And then last is, I know you have the JTEP program that you're tied to, but I help one or two people move to Albuquerque every month that are bringing businesses here. So I tie them into JTEP, but the other big one you guys have is ITAP, which is what did we used to call that? Upskilling, where people here could send their employees to your ITAP program. It's the Information Technology Apprenticeship Program. So I'm just here to praise what you're doing. So thank you so much.
This is a
Stacy,
wonderful question. Thank you.
he's not, yes. It's a great question. He's not on our payroll. He's wearing UNM colors, just so you know.
If I can say thank you, Stacy, for bringing up NMBio, because I was remiss earlier that, when you think about, we recognize and understand that when you think about your workforce, you are not only employing bioscience major scientists, that you may have IT needs, you may have business needs, all of those opportunities we can meet and support you in. And so I don't want it to be too narrow. We have Phil here to talk about of course, the specialization in biotechnology, but we absolutely have more than 180 degrees in certificate pathways, including all of our boot camps and other specialized skills and training.
Yeah, I have young kids, so I can't help but think, a little bit more about that primary education piece. And I was wondering if you could expand on what's available to local schools, charter schools, particularly some of these maker spaces or spaces he just mentioned. I mean, have you brought busloads of kids in there and had some of your students show what could be done with these different pieces of equipment and resources available, or whatever you can share in that aspect?
Sure, I'll let others speak more to it and very broadly. So we work very closely with our school partners. There's no question we have about 3,000 to 4,000 dual credit students. So high school students who are taking our courses, they take a range of courses from us. And many of them are in skilled trades, but also in technology, business, and certainly all of those general education courses that they may take to help them prepare for a traditional college education. So we certainly work closely with them. We also have a number of efforts that, whether there are summer camps where we have a range, we have many, and they're targeted to different groups and age groups. And so we have a number of those throughout the summer. We had a few during the academic years or during traditional years, but frankly, those are pretty hard to manage to meet certain needs and staff them. I would say Fuse is a fascinating place for individuals to learn. There are some limitations because of just the machinery that's available and ages of individuals who are able to be there. But we certainly have worked with, whether it's been St. John's College in Santa Fe, some of their students come down here to learn more about Fuse and working with their hands and producing some of the prototypes they want to test. Albuquerque Academy is toward Fuse. So, we certainly work with a range of schools to get students excited about what's possible. And you're right, to test and to solve problems with to work with their hands. It's a pretty creative and interesting place. Our legislators love going to Fuse Makerspace, which is why they're so excited about supporting some additional training and actual space to expand that effort. So we work closely, but I'm sure if there are other efforts I haven't touched on, you may want to add.
I'll just add one. So I think President Hartzler covered most of the 3,000 to 4,000 dual credit students in high school is a big number when you think about how many high school students we have in New Mexico or in central New Mexico region. We work with both of the large school districts, Rio Rancho and Albuquerque Public Schools, but also the small school districts, Bernalillo schools, some of the East Mountain schools, and then Santa Fe is not in our district, and so Santa Fe Community College serves the Santa Fe School District. But also every charter school in our district is also given the same level of support and opportunity for students. We have multiple high schools in our district that a large portion of their curriculum is actually delivered through dual credit coursework at CNM. The last thing I would add is just that we have once a year CNM Day where more than 1,000 high school students that haven't yet learned about CNM have the opportunity by bus. If their teacher, they have to have a teacher that sponsors them, they get the bus and they come to CNM, and we spend a full day with them, giving them the opportunity to explore everything that happens at CNM, whether you're interested in a STEM degree pathway, a trade or a skilled trade, a healthcare pathway, whatever it may be. And all of CNM really responds and comes together to make sure that those kids have the opportunity to see what's possible at CNM as a dual credit student, or once they graduate from high school to come on and matriculate to that. So we're doing a lot. It doesn't mean we're doing everything. And so as an industry, actually, in a sector, we invite you to challenge us to how could we think together to do something, because I think it'd be pretty biosexy to have, like, bioscience sexy to have something that really helps them understand what we're talking about, that STEM isn't an exclusionary place, that there's an opportunity for them to participate in the biosciences if they just got the chance to understand. So if you all want to do this, let's go do it.
One last thing we haven't mentioned that I did want to mention real quickly is we have partnered with Stewart Rose and other entities as well for space, right? We do have a space solutions arm of the college as well for facility rental. You're all here today, right, at our workforce training center, but we have leased some space to some startup companies as well with multiple campuses in the Albuquerque metro area. So that's just something else too, as companies are growing and expanding and needing to relocate or just need a temporary location for some of the work that they're doing, that's something to keep in mind as well.
So 4 o'clock may be early for happy hour. I don't know. I mean, I'm personally going to a board meeting, so I don't know what to do, but I'm not going to a happy hour right now. But I just want to say thank you for your afternoon. Thank you for the time. It's been engaging conversation. I look forward to learning more from my colleagues, what you also discussed today. But we really appreciate your time, your support, your interest, your nudging and encouragement. We really appreciate the sources. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for ending on a high note. We greatly appreciate it.